Today I'm painting Thraex from Project Elite. Alright, since I'm going to be painting this guy mostly with Citadel contrast paints, I decided to prime him just with Army Painter's matte white, seeing as at the time I did not have Wraithbone or Greyseer from the Citadel paints. We're starting off with Tentacle Red, my favorite for this board game so far, which is a Zombicide Invader's unique paint. And we're going to be applying that to the tongue, that tentacle sticking out of his mouth, the inside of his mouth, and the gums. So not much here, but because he doesn't have many tentacles, but it's always a beautiful color, and I hope I never run out. Alright, next we're moving on to Corpse Pale. Yes, I know, another color I use a lot in this box, but this is just for the teeth. And I just find that the Corpse Pale has a nice color to it for bones and stuff, other than skeleton bone or, other things like that. Now we're moving on to our first contrast, which is Basilicanum Gray. On top of the white is very pale, and I started noticing actually when I'm painting with contrast paints, I feel like I'm painting with actual paint, whereas contrast paints, you're supposed to just pretty much like take a good brush and do it like a wash. Like really put it on there and get in those recesses, otherwise you're just not getting that contrast like I wanted. I think on this one I kind of messed up in that. I may be wrong, it still looks great in the end, but I found like maybe I wasn't pushing it enough into the crevices. So I learned my lesson with that, of course. And as you paint, you always learn something new when you're painting and you're watching other people paint as well. And I mean, I'm not looking for master class on my paint jobs. I'm looking to get these to the table, so they're like speed painting, and I'm very proud of my work and I love it. Anyways, I hope you're doing well, and I hope you enjoy watching these videos. So please stick along, and let's move on to the next contrast after this one is done. Alright, so the next contrast we're moving on to is Nazdreg Yellow, and this is for, at first I was actually going to do everything that was for fleshy looking parts on this guy, but then I started seeing it was very darkish, and I didn't really want that for this miniature. So I just went with like certain parts, like key areas where it looks like this part of his skin was like protruding or was more in depth or like darker, deeper kind of thing. And I use it for his feet too. I don't know, I just ended up changing my mind about how I want to paint this miniature. And I mean, that happens when you paint. And worst case scenario is just start over. You prime them up and you go again. Alright, now we're going to get those big claws, and we're going to be using some skeleton Horde, and this just does a good job for anything that's like a bone, and it gets in there nice. It covers up perfectly well with the white. It's really nice. And I also do his little claws on his toes there, so I give him a nice little pedicure at the end. Alright, moving on to Black Templar contrast, and looking at this miniature afterwards, I could have probably done Black Templar everywhere, or even the Basilicanum Gray everywhere, because the white was so prominent that it just like blended into each other and you barely see a difference. I continued going anyways with the Black Templar, just because I had it out and I'm like, oh well, you know what, whatever. But you do see a bit of a difference in real life, and it's still a beautiful color, the Black Templar, but I don't think I would use it on white again. I would use it on the Grey Seer. Maybe the Wraithbone might be nice. I haven't tried it yet, but definitely not on white because it just becomes gray. Unless you would put like a second coating over it, then maybe it would get a little darker. Right now we're going to finish the rest of this miniature with Fyreslayer Flesh, which is another contrast paint from Citadel, and this is going to go on the rest of Where's White. Now, one thing with contrast paint that's not very forgiving is if you forgot a spot, you can see the white specks come out once in a while, and I'm like, oh, can I just touch it up with the Fyreslayer Flesh? It wasn't a great idea. I should have went back to the original color and then just finished where I missed and all that. So sometimes as you're painting with contrast paints, you don't always notice that you missed a little dot, but when you come around and you see it when the light hits it, it shows. So your margin of error with contrast paints is very high, I guess you would say, to know that you have more of a chance of making mistakes and forgetting spots, because you don't usually use a wash on top of them. Some people do after, but so the washes normally get into the recesses you've missed in that. Anyways, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please feel free to buy me a coffee on ko-fi.com/easterlingsgaming. There you can donate and help my cause of building this channel and helping my painting hobby grow even more. Alright, finishing off where I began, I'm using some Nuln Oil on the tongue and the mouth just to finish off that little glitterness of it. And here he is, Thraex, ready to fight the heroes in Project Elite. Thank you all for watching, have a good day, and get your miniatures to the table.